Hey, let's get everybody in. Again, I want to get a welcome to the program, Lana Atwin, Natalie Bova, and Debbie DeLille, to talk about the upcoming radiothon. Okay, so we're going to have to get ourselves situated, move a mic around or two. There we go. Everybody's situated and ready. All right, okay. Well, first of all, welcome.
No, thank you.
Move the mic a little closer. There. Okay, impromptu stuff. Okay, we're looking at hosting a radiothon, K103, that being, for a new roof for Step-by-Step Child and Family Center. And one of the things that comes up is, right from the start, let's tackle this, because people might be wondering, gee, that's a new building. What's up? Why does it need a new roof? And it's only been there for, has it been 10 years yet? A little over?
A little 12 years.
About 12 years. And I'm trying to think back in my own memory, but was this a problem that came up earlier? Within the first couple of years that this was noted, that there was a problem with the roof? I guess I'll let Debbie answer that one.
Well, I'm going to let Natalie answer that.
Okay.
As, well, I guess I can't. Natalie was my assistant, executive assistant.
Right.
And so her responsibility was the building maintenance. So she has more details on what was happening during those years about the building. I mean, I guess I'm going to mention now because I'm kind of phasing out as an executive director as of April 26th.
Yeah, you're retiring.
And Natalie has been selected by the board as the new
well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, excellent,
it's kind of
excellent
like
choice.
interim and now it's official, but it'll be official as of April 25th.
Yeah.
But so I'll let her answer those questions.
Okay, Natalie.
So basically, when I got to Step-by-Step in 2008, the building had been there since 2004, and I was chairperson of the board at the time when the new building came in place. I was aware of some issues that happened with the roof, which were minor to begin with, but then in 2010, we ended up having to replace the valleys of the roof due to membrane, what they thought at the time was buildup and backup of ice and stuff, and the membrane that was installed didn't seem to be wide enough to sustain the winters we had, the severe weather changes, premature wear was happening on some of the tiles, so on and so forth. So we had that done, and we continued along, and then another issue came up, which was totally different from the membrane. It was that some of the tiles seemed to have premature wear or were defective, and we weren't sure what that was all about. So we called someone in, and we were looking at that, and we did the major repairs prior to finding out that there was a class action suit on BP Rampart tiles, which is the manufacturer of the tiles that we had. Now, looking into that and researching, finding out more information, it came to the realization that going the way of trying to prove that these tiles were in fact defective, because there's a whole big process that's involved in determining that. And even at that point, they will only cover a percentage of what the warranty is that's remaining on the tiles. For instance, you have a tile that's guaranteed up to 15 years. Right now, for instance, we're at 12 years right now. They would give us the difference of the 3 years remaining on the warranty if we could prove, which would cost us in excess of what we would actually get back. So as a capital management decision, it's best to go the way of replacing what we need to replace. Now, we could replace part of the roof. That's not a problem. The entire roof doesn't need to be replaced right now.
Right.
But if we were to replace, let's say, 40% of the roof, in 5 or 8 years from now, where are we? Did we just make a hole in the water? Are we getting anywhere? Because then we're going to have to replace the other part of the roof.
Yeah, one of the things that, like I said, I seem to recall hearing that almost like within the first year or maybe two, that there were problems with leakage in the roof. Let me start there, and let me ask: is that correct?
No, it was a sprinkler system.
Oh, okay, it was a sprinkler system. Okay,
That's another
quite different.
story.
No, because the questions that come up in terms of, okay, where are the liabilities in this here? And again, the warranties, and who do you go to first? You have a project manager or a contractor and subcontractors and all this stuff before you even get to, let's say, the manufacturer in the lawsuit. It's like, okay, but who's responsible because that's a huge investment already, and things we shouldn't be facing this is what I gather people might be thinking and saying like what is the problem,
That's exactly it, Ross. And when we look at it, we realize that it could have been a flaw in design. The contractor, the tiles. We've had 4 or 5 different companies come in to look at and assess, and before we can get an inspector on there and someone to actually prove and then get lawyers involved and the rest of it, is that it's not worth it in the end. It's just our reality at this point in time. Mm-hmm. And in order to move forward and to stop bogging down operations, because right now, as everyone's aware, there's been major cuts in childcare funding that's effective this Friday. Mm-hmm. So that's where we need to focus on our attention, is on maintaining and providing service to the families.
Is that provincial or is that federal?
It's provincial.
That's what it cut back, but it's both. We get both 4 to 5 different funding sources, and one is the provincial government.
Okay, well, I'm going to try to make this all jive because you just had the Liberal government come down with a budget purportedly putting new money into, they fell short on education, but to native funding, and so it just doesn't wash for you guys. It's just not there.
Well, what happens is that it's childcare is not priority. Like, people will say education, they think it may include childcare, but it doesn't. And that's what happens.
Well, apparently, but even education is not that much of a priority. It's a hell of a thing to hear actually said out loud, is that, childcare or education is not a priority. So that's again another thing to be aware of.
And I guess to be aware of too that Quebec is sort of an isolated situation because the provincial government is responsible for childcare here, whereas in other provinces it may be the federal government. So we have the province and the federal government.
Yeah, notwithstanding. I think that's the approach they have.
Well, we don't want to get into that.
Well, no, I mean, but it is there. Sure. It is there. It's the elephant in the room. Okay, so what kind of a cost are we looking at to replace what needs to be done so that you have a watertight roof?
We got an estimate about 18 months ago, which was in the vicinity of $90,000. So with cost of inflation and that, I haven't had the new amount updated yet because we have to determine if we're going to do a full membrane on the roof, which is what was suggested. So we're looking up to $100,000.
Wow. And I mean, outside of a radiothon, where is that money coming from?
Fundraising, and that's internal. And I'm here, as communications, but I'm also a part of our fundraising committee, if you will.
Yeah.
And what had concerned me is when we started talking about having to raise these funds was, where is it going to come from? We do fundraising every year at Step by Step. We ask parents to participate, and we've kind of been making it more, I don't want to say an obligation, but I guess a responsibility, because when we do orientation now, we say that we're going to do 2 fundraisers every year, and we hope that everyone will participate. And it's not usually that successful, and we raise a few $1,000s every year. So I started to say, well, we got to come up with this money. How are we going to come up with this money? We'll do additional fundraisers. We just did a maple syrup fundraiser as an additional one. Let's see how much we can make. And I hoped for 2,000, and we did about 14, which is not much really in the larger scope of things. And we promoted this 3rd fundraiser as for the roof, so we can start doing things showing that we're doing fundraising too internally to support that getting repaired.
Yeah.
And then Natalie and I were talking and saying, it needs to be bigger. There's no way we're going to raise $100,000 by the fall. So she said, the biggest fundraising that we've seen done in the community is through the radio, and said, let's try and see if it's a possibility. And we approached the board, and basically said what we were saying here today, and they approved it, and we're hoping that it's, we can go through with it and make what we need.
I want to make and this question really goes to the question of urgency. Because one of the things I'm pretty much aware of, and I think anybody who has a home is aware that if things unattended only get worse. So what really, at this point, there's a certain amount of damage caused just by leakage. We have problems that could be having to do with mold, rot of the roof substructure, the plywood or whatever is up there. And is there an assessment already about where it is right now? And failing to, because the winter just came, and we're just like, we got a ton of rain right now. It really seems to be kind of urgent.
Well, 18 months ago when we got the assessment, then that's when we were told the individual that did this, or the company that did this, said, you have about 18 months before you're going to start getting damage that is going to be in excess of what you're expecting, or what could possibly, result from not taking care of it. So this company did repairs. If you look at the building right now, there's patches. You'll see the tar in different patches near the air conditioner, which became a problem, near the edges where the radiant system is. The valleys are pretty much done, but you'll see the difference in the color because they had to be changed. So you see all of that, and those repairs were done temporarily to bring us to the 18 months, which is this fall. So regardless of how much money we get, and I'm really hoping that the community can come together to provide this, because we have to get this roof repaired. It's not really questionable. It has to be done.
Yeah.
And you're talking about she's talking about the external patches, but inside. So it's leaking in one classroom, so we got to move them out.
That's what I was going to say. We're already to the point where we're putting buckets out
on the other side of the building, and we have to move them. So it's affected all the way around.
Like moving entire classroom, especially when the repairs are being done. We've moved entire classrooms for weeks. So the routine gets upset, and that's a big inconvenience for the children.
Right. Not good. At some point, then it gets to be where, well, maybe we could close the whole building, and then what does that mean in the community? But right now, in terms of families and children that are associated with Step by Step, how many are there in Kahnawake?
How many?
Like how many children do you have in Step by Step? Whether it's daycare or whether it's early childhood education.
We have 180 spaces between Step by Step and Avery. So just at the main building where the roof is required is 160 spaces. 160
spaces, because this can't be. And let me ask you, okay, if it didn't come up already, the question will come up. But wasn't there any insurance for this? Is there insurance for that?
For the roof?
Yeah.
Like we said, the first year or so, first year or two is the manufacturer, or the the regular warranty and that, and through you'd have to bring in inspectors and do a full assessment, and the price of the assessment isn't worth the. I've talked to I don't even know what his title would be, not an engineer, but somebody who's done many roofs in their life and has gone through this, and assessing our situation advised that your best bet is to, it's almost like the analogy of you buy a new fridge. And for the first year, your compressor is under warranty. But after a year and a half, your compressor goes again. And then in a year and a half after that, it goes again. At what point do you say, okay, you know what? I need to replace the fridge. It's not going to get me anywhere saying that, yeah, it's the compressor that's, so, but where do you pinpoint that, Ross? Where do you determine what exactly was the cause? Because all of the issues that have happened over the years are not the same.
Yeah, I guess what I was more wondering about, Natalie, I mean, I don't really know very much about insurance. Like, I mean, I do use the analogy, you buy a fridge or a stove or a washing machine, and they offer to sell you extended warranty or what have you. But that isn't exactly the way it works in this kind of a situation. People will sometimes get house insurance and things like that.
Okay.
Is there no insurance policies for the building itself, for the structure? I know there's liability for anything that might happen to children in the building or workers.
Yeah, well, see what happens is too, like even at home too, right? Or you're going to say something's going to happen in your building, in your home, and you're going to repair it because you don't want your deductible to go up, kind of thing. That's what you do at home. Here, the situation is more of it's not the structure of the building, it's the liability, like you said, that's covered. But in the insurance of the building itself, yes, it is, but the insurance is going to ask, okay, who's responsible? And so now here you go with what she's just mentioning, getting the inspectors in and that, and then you're it's just going to increase.
Somebody from the housing insurance industry once literally told me, because I couldn't get insurance in an area where I was living because somebody was setting fire to sheds. So they stopped writing policies in the neighborhood that I had lived, and they said, well, Mr. Montour, we're not in the business of paying out claims. And so it goes with the insurance industry. They count those beans and you get stuck in those kinds of situations. I'm asking these kinds of questions because I just think, well, people might be asking, okay, but we're being asked to say dig in to communities, pockets for this, and how come? So there's a real need. There's a real need.
And to give credit to, I'm just learning about this part of it.
Right.
I think from my understanding, the contractor came forth when the initial requests were made to make repairs and did repairs and went over and above, I think, what was expected. So it wasn't like we didn't get those initial repairs done or we paid for them. The contractor came through and did what was, what we needed at that time. And then it comes, okay, now it's longer, it's later, it's more, and our warranty with the contractor is up, They're only, I think, obligated for 1 year within Quebec anyway. And so that's why, when the repairs came forth, we just paid for it. We did it because it had to be done.
Yeah, boy, it makes you really wonder about the whole industry. I mean, from the manufacture of materials to doing repairs. I mean, you have repairs done, and there are failures. Could be the wind, could be this, and I guess that all comes into it. So I guess make sure they go with a different company for roofing tiles.
Well, there's a whole website too, and that's what I've been learning about too, is how to submit a claim, and then I look up legal advice and about this actual claim, and that's what they're saying is if you're going to attack it, don't join the civil suit and go on your own. I said, we can't go on our own. We don't have the resources to pay for a lawyer and do all of those things and pay tens and maybe up to tens of thousands of dollars for legal fees to prove it. And then the damage to you look at the damage to the shingles, and they could be caused by the ice. They're not because the shingles were of bad quality, so it's hard to prove, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
The shingles are gone because our first major repair was done before the lawsuit came into effect. So we're kind of in this, stuck between a rock and a hard place in terms of what do we do?
Yeah. You're listening to K103's Partyline Talk Show. If you're just tuning in, I'm with Natalie Bova, Alana Atwin, and Debbie DeLille, and we're talking about upcoming fundraiser, Radiothon, on K103 to try and raise money for the Step-by-Step Child and Family Center's roof, to replace the roof and fix the roof to prevent further leakage.